Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Automation Hours. My name is Grady. I'm an expert coach here at Keap. And our session opened up with this question here. How do you manually invoice your clients? And we've got a lot of great responses from you guys in the chat there. Some of you said you do a little bit, maybe about 10% of the time. Some of you are doing subscriptions through PayPal. Some of you don't use invoices per se because you're affiliate marketing. And some of you are using PayPal to do the product links and sending those out. And so that's all great news, all great things to hear. Now, today's webinar is going to be a little bit different. And that is because every month, Keap puts out what we call our product release report. Every month, we take all the updates that we're doing to our product, and we basically package them all into one message, and we send it out. We call it our release report. And so in April's release report, we talk about all the cool updates we did in April. Every week, we're doing updates of some type in our product. Now, one of the great new updates we made was to our new goal, or actually it's an existing goal. It's a process called create order, meaning create like an invoice. And when you use that tool, it's great. You can throw it in the campaign automation. We'll talk more about that today. But the big update is that if we've got a credit card on file and we're an Infusionsoft user, we can auto charge it and get paid for that one-time invoice really easily and all through automation. Now, to help us with this, I invited one of our partners to come join us to explain this to us and learn how to leverage it for our business. But before I do, I want to make sure that everyone remembers that these sessions are meant to be interactive. And so as we go along today and we're sharing these things, if you guys have questions about what we're talking about, you need some more clarity, you can raise your hand inside of Zoom. It's got its own function there, and I can then acknowledge you, give you access to unmute your microphone, and you can ask a question. We've also got access to Q&A. Q&A allows you to type in your questions in case you're a little bit shy and don't want to be on the microphone in front of everybody, or maybe you don't have it set up right now because you're working from home or something like that. So Q&A is also great, and it goes into a special queue where I can see those questions and then I can slide them in to the content as we go. And then lastly, we've got chat. If you've got things that you want to share, maybe you want to answer a question that we've asked the group, or you want to share how you use something, you can use chat to kind of have a positive contribution to the topic. It's not a place for questions. Questions go in Q&A, but chat's more for statements. And what I would recommend is that you would use the all panelists and all attendees when you're chatting so that everybody here can benefit from the commentary you're making. All right, so one of the reasons that we made this update was that we know that it can be a little bit tedious when it comes to sending out one by one invoices, especially when those invoices are for the same product or service. You know, if you have a coaching call that's 1 hour and it costs this much, you don't necessarily need to make that invoice over and over again. You can automate it. And so today's session really is designed to help us do that. And we've invited Renee back to help us with that. Renee, welcome back to the Automation Hours.
Hi, Grady. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in today. It's, as Grady mentioned, it's going to be a little bit different. You know, we do spend a lot of time talking on a lot of the automation hours together. We talk about strategy, and then we also talk about implementation at a big picture. What we really want to do today is highlight one of the awesome features inside of both Keap and Infusionsoft. And as Grady mentioned, it's been recently updated. So we want to take a moment to just make sure you're aware of all the power and functionality that you already have at your fingertips. And if you can use it in your business, then we want to make sure that you are definitely using it to streamline processes. The worst is when you're sending out invoices and, you know, you kind of get into that feast or famine mode where, you know, you won't send them out every single time on time. And then, oh, shoot, you've got some bills to pay. So let me get those invoices out. And you don't really have visibility or tracking into seeing which ones were paid, which ones were not. It's kind of living in different systems. So if you do your invoicing and doing it through Keap, what's really powerful about it is that you're going to be able to see everything in one place in either of Infusionsoft and Keap. And that's really the power of doing it through the software.
Yeah, that's something that I actually experienced myself. Before I worked here at Keap, I had a window cleaning company, and I had one of my clients. It was semi-monthly service. My crew would go out there, and they would drop off an invoice, and I wasn't watching it. And so we'd been dropping off invoices, but the person who usually took those and paid them wasn't with the company anymore. And so the new person who replaced them didn't know what to do with the invoices and didn't do anything with them. And then I wasn't watching it. And so all of a sudden I had like 7 months of unpaid invoices. And now I've got to walk, to him like hat in hand and go like, hey, I messed up. Like, of course he feels guilty because he didn't pay, but I feel guilty because I didn't ask him to pay. And
Right.
so it was this weird conversation. So Renee, tell us what we'll be able to accomplish after today's session.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what I see time and time again when working with hundreds of businesses at this point is that a lot of them won't do the invoicing through Keap or Infusionsoft. And so I want to just first and foremost go over the e-commerce options, let you know what options are available to you, so that you're able to set up your payment processes to start collecting money and be able to collect that money on time. The second thing is sending invoices automatically, so we can create a process where if you apply a tag or you're using pipeline automation as an example and moving someone from stage to stage, we can further take it an additional step and have the automation create the invoice for us if we know that when this tag is applied or when we move a contact into a particular sales stage, we want that to go out, and that's done for us automatically. So we're going to talk first about the e-commerce options. Make sure to get you set up so that with the payment processing, so that you're able to actually collect the payments using Infusionsoft or Keap, know how to send the invoices automatically. And then we're going to talk a little strategically about some additional selling opportunities. Yes, you can create an invoice and send that out, which is beautiful, but you can also use this tool for additional strategic selling opportunities like a cross-sell or a one-click upsell, where you can make it a very frictionless process. If someone just clicks a button in the email and you already have their credit card on file, you're able to just auto charge them. So essentially making it as easy as Amazon's one-click buy button.
Awesome. Well, let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that you can get yours shared here.
Perfect.
And I have a feeling my daughter is going to slide in here again and bring me Mike and Ike's in today's session. So if you see her,
that's all good. I would like some Mike and Ike's too. So you could virtually send some over.
It's part of working from home, my daughter, she knows they're my favorite. And so she's always like coming in the office at random times.
Got it. Well, yes. This is the new COVID world, I guess. We just can't really, like, you could put a sign on the door, but it's to their discretion if they're going. Yep.
There she is.
Awesome.
I got peanut butter M&Ms today, actually.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So let's dive in. What I want to do is I'm going to go into the tool a little bit, just show you how to set things up, and then we're going to leave some time at the end for Q&A. So if you have a specific question about this or how it could relate to your business, I'd love to go over those with you and just make sure that we're ultimately providing the most value. So I'm going to give you a little bit of tool training, talk a little bit about strategy, and then we'll get into a Q&A. Okay, so inside of Infusionsoft and Keap, you have the ability to automatically send orders or invoices. They're kind of a synonymous word. And an invoice or an order is obviously different than a quote, because a quote has an acceptance process. They're going to say yay or nay, whereas an invoice or an order is just simply, what you're sending out to get paid for your product or services. So when we're looking at using Infusionsoft, some of the benefits of doing our invoicing through the software is that when you go to a particular contact record, you're going to be able to get a full and complete history just looking at it. So not only are you going to see your notes and the tags and different things, but you're also going to be able to, inside of Keap, go into a money section, or inside of Infusionsoft, go to your orders section and see all the information. And you're going to be able to create some streamlined processes for yourself as well. So the very first thing to note or to decide is, are you going to actually do the credit card side processing? Are you going to use Infusionsoft's and Keap's merchant accounts, whether that's their direct option, which would be the We Pay Keap payments option, Or are you going to connect Stripe, which is a newer option available and fantastic because it's so readily used? Or are you going to connect it to PayPal? So first things first is I'm going to just hop into Keap, and I'm going to show you inside of both Keap and Infusionsoft. I'm going to do a little bit of back and forth between the two tools where they differ. And then we're going to dive into the campaign builder, which is the same across both of them. So if you are a Keap user, this part is for you. If you want to be able to collect payments and use this tool in order to actually be able to even do some of the cool new features, the auto charging of credit cards you have on file, in order to do that, the very first thing is you need to set up your payment processing. So if you're inside of Keap, that lives under your little avatar right up here at the top right corner. And you're going to click on settings. And then the fifth option down, numbers have changed. The fifth option down is products, payments, and invoicing. So under here, you're going to have the ability to then go ahead and select your currency. This is the foundational stuff we need to set up, because obviously when you're then creating using the automated process to create the order, it's taking into account all of this stuff that you've set up. So the products need to be set up, your payment processing should be set up, the currency that you're collecting money in would be set up. All of this happens in the background so that you're able to use in the campaign builder this new feature. So you have a couple of different options inside of Keap. You also can add another payment processor, which is authorize.net. So there's a couple of different options available to you right here. And you can take a look at the different rates. It's all listed here, the different ones like between Stripe and PayPal and also Keap. They list everything that they're going to be charging. And the connection process is super easy, especially if you already use one of these accounts. Like if you have a Stripe account, you're simply going to just click on the connect button. And so it's going to give you the option to create a new account for yourself. But if you already have one, you just click on this sign in button and it's going to take you to your login screen. And then it's going to just be a quick connection between the two of them, just your username and password, and you're off to the races. So Keap has made the payment processing setup side of it super easy. From there, once you've set up a payment processing side, from there, you're going to then make sure you've got your products and services listed. This is really important, to give yourself a little bit of organization. But that said, let's say you get into the campaign builder and you're doing something on the fly. I also want to give you peace of mind that you can create products on the fly. Just like you can create tags on the fly, you could create a product on the fly. From the way my brain works, I like to be organized and I like to do it in an order of operation. So this would be my recommendation to you, but just know that you can create them on the fly as well. So this is it for Keap. This is the one page that you're going to go to and set this process up before we get into the campaign builder. Now I'm just going to flip over really quickly into Infusionsoft and show you, if you're an Infusionsoft user, where do you go to access a similar setting for yourself? So you're going to go under e-commerce, and then you're going to first go to the e-commerce setup. And then from the e-commerce setup under payments, the very first option is payment types. So you'd click on payment types. And this is again going to take us to a very similar screen that we were just looking at. The difference with Infusionsoft is because it's such a powerhouse tool, things are kind of organized a little bit differently. So first we would go ahead and set up our payment types. Very similarly, we would just check the ones we want. If they're not already connected, we would just click on connect and go ahead and do that process. Inside of Infusionsoft, you're also going to set up your products similar to what we were doing with Keap as well. So again, you can go under the e-commerce, and the third option down is products. So you can go ahead, come over here, add all the products that you want. For the purposes of today, I created two products, my awesome product and my awesome subscription. So I've got both of those listed right here. And then the last piece, once you have connected the products, connected your processing, is just under the e-commerce settings. There's one specific setting in here. It's under quotes and invoices. And if you want to actually be able to enable payment collection on the invoices that you're going to send out through the campaign, you just need to make sure that this enable payment collection on invoices is toggled over to yes. Otherwise, the option won't present itself inside of the campaign builder. And Grady, just to clarify, is that option explicitly here in Keap? I don't know that it is.
You know what? I'm not sure either.
I think that when you set it up, maybe inside of Keap, it's like one of those things like we don't need to check the email box either. It's just automatically
Just
opting in.
knows. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'll
okay.
double
So
check while
we'll,
you're going.
yeah, perfect, perfect. So that's essentially the setup process that you need to make sure that's in place before you go into the campaign builder. Now let's talk a little bit about use cases of who would use this and why would you even use this to begin with. So one example is a subscription service. If you want to be able to create an invoice or create a order for a subscription service, like in Grady's example, of what he was doing in a past life, or if you're like in the landscaping, or if you're in some kind of a subscription based service where you're going to come and provide services on an X duration basis, monthly, quarterly, annually, whatever that looks like, that is going to be reoccurring, you can go ahead and auto charge from the card that you have on file continuously for that service. So that's one option that you have available to you here. The other thing that we talked about in a past automation hour, and also Grady covers in one of the Getting Started webinars, is about sales pipeline automation. So if you have pipeline automation already set up, and that's just really simply having your stages inside of Keap specifically. If you go ahead and click on this, the little gear, and you click on configure automation from here, you're able to have it do certain things. Now, in this case, what you would have it do if you wanted it to create that order for you automatically is you would have it apply a tag. And then inside the campaign builder, that tag would be the thing that would be connected to the sequence, which has the create order. And I'll show you how to do that as well. So just to set up the example as well, I'm going to put a send invoice stage, okay? And I'm going to have that configured. I'm going to have that connected to a tag. And when we get inside the campaign builder, I'll show you how that would also help us to create the order for us as well. So I've got this tag right here, or this one set up, and you can see that it has automation already created behind it. Another example would be especially if you're a Keap user, if you would like to charge for your appointments. So you have this powerful ability to create appointments inside of Keap. And if you want to then go ahead and be able to follow up and perhaps charge for appointments that were already scheduled inside of your calendar, you're also able to, again, using some of the automation that is coming down the pipeline, even with the scheduling piece, you're able to create more of that. So again, when you go into this process, you're obviously going to set up your entire availability and the duration, all that. And then similar to some other scheduling tools that you can actually charge an amount, this is a way we can do that too. And then probably my very favorite thing is one-click upsells. So like, let's say we're talking about a new customer campaign. And so you know that they've already purchased, and this is really powerful, especially if you have the credit card on file. What you can do is you can start a sequence and you can give them an option. Let's say you're selling coaching, but you want to give them the option to upgrade to like group coaching, but you want them to be able to upgrade to VIP coaching or something like that, or give them something additional that they, similar to that Amazon one-click buy button, they can just click the button and they know, you'd have some disclaimer in in small little writing, by clicking this button, you are agreeing to your credit card being charged, and you can just have that automation process automatically run for you. So it's really powerful like that. Again, we're trying to consistently move towards a frictionless experience for our customers. At the end of the day, if you think about anything that you are transacting with, any brands that like you really love doing business with them, or the ones that you don't love doing business with them, part of the reason you love doing business with them is because they've made their process so smooth. And so you feel good going through it. And we're trying to do the same for your business and for your clients, to have them have that same experience. So we're always thinking about what's the experience like for our own customers, and making sure that we're designing it as best as possible. So I think, I think I've shared quite a little bit about some use cases and also just a little bit of foundational setup. Let's dive into the campaign builder and look at this tool.
Yeah. And to just to update you, I went ahead and ran a test with myself
Yes.
and did a create order. I got the email, clicked the link, and it offers me the pay now button.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so that process, that explicit process that we have to do inside of Infusionsoft to toggle it to yes is automatically done for us inside of Keap, which is beautiful. So the campaign builder is the same across both. So I'm inside of Keap, so I'm just going to pop into a campaign. I'm going to go ahead and create my own. And always name your campaigns well, so that you know what they are, but then other people know what they are as well. So we're just going to call this automation hours. And so the way you get to the process that I'm talking about, that lives inside of a sequence. So there has to be a way for the contact to get inside the sequence. And that's really how the goals and sequence relationship works inside of the campaign builder. There's goals, which can be used to start, serve as a checkpoint, or stop campaigns. And then sequences are everything that happens in between the procedures, internal processes, whether that's like applying tags or creating tasks, or external communications like sending emails, soon to be coming very soon, I hope, SMS capabilities. So like a lot of that really cool stuff that we can do. So that happens inside of the sequence. So we need to then determine the way that they're going to come into the sequence. I mean, I would say probably the easiest way and most familiar for so many Keap and Infusionsoft users is going to be applying a tag. You simply apply a tag onto the contact record, and you can have that create the invoice for you. Another really powerful way that you can do this inside of Keap specifically is you can create a smart form to do this. And you can have the smart form, if you wanted to send different invoice options, like let's say on your smart form, you had a checkbox of different products that you wanted to be able to send to them. You could use the smart form to trigger them into the right sequence, which would then create the right order or invoice for them and send that to them automatically. So it could be a smart form. It could be a tag goal. The other thing that I was setting up earlier was the sales pipeline stage move. So let's say, for example, you move the contact into that send invoice stage. You can have that automation also tied into. So whichever way they come into the sequence, you can see it can be from a variety of different ways. The process itself actually lives inside the sequence. So I'm going to head in there and let's take a look at it together. It's this guy right here, the create order option. And essentially, this is just creating an automatic invoice for you. This is going to send it out. It's going to auto charge if you have a credit card on file, or it's going to send a payable invoice. There's also an option if you choose that you don't, if you want to send the invoice, but you don't want to collect the payment over like online using the payment processing options, there's an option for you to just send the invoice out and then collect payment, whichever other way you might do it. Maybe it's a check or a money order or some offline measure. So we're going to go ahead and pull out the create order. And this is the same in Infusionsoft and Keap. You'll see the same elements, same thing will live right there, and you'll be able to just go ahead and pull it out. And so inside, it's a very beautifully designed and easy setup process. And there's really a couple of things that you're going to do. The first thing is you're going to say, when I create this automatic invoice to send out, what are the products that I'm putting on there? So simply by going to add products, and this is an excellent example because inside this Keap account, I actually don't think I have any products. So if I just, I don't have anything. So I'll show you in the example of how you can create something on the fly. If you had it as you type it in, it would show up here and then you could select the right one. So I'm just going to call this my awesome product. So we're creating my awesome product. It's asking me for a couple more details. Generally speaking, you're going to be selling products. You'll use the digital option if you want to send them like some kind of a downloadable something, or like a software code downloadable something. But generally speaking, you're selling products. So we'll make this as an amount. And then you can also pick if it's going to be sold as a product. What this means down here, product and subscription, is think of it as one time or reoccurring. That's really what this is saying to you here. So if I wanted to only sell it one time, I'm going to just click on product and save that. And then that product now shows up here. So when I send out this invoice, it's going to have this information here. And I can also, there's another thing I can alter is I can alter the quantity. So again, you can do some pretty cool things. Like if you want to create a smart form and you wanted to have the option to have 2 orders generated, like one for like a single product, and then maybe you were going to give like a bundled discount price if they purchase like 2, maybe you offer like a duo price. You can also increase the quantity here as well. So you can change that too, for the purpose of this demo, we'll just keep it at 1. So basically I have my, go ahead, Grady.
So like if I had like a smart form, or if it was Infusionsoft, an internal form, I could say like how many hours they're purchasing on the form, and then like have a decision diamond that says 1 hour go up here, get that invoice created, 2 hours go there. Oh, cool.
Yes. Exactly. So that's really where you can take something really simple and then obviously create a lot of sophistication behind it and make it as seamless of a process for you. You yourself, the Infusionsoft or Keap user, is just going to fill out one form, but then you would have already done the legwork to set up all the different combinations and options using this, and then it's going to take care of it for you reliably every single time. I think the thing to think about in the payment option, because they're very easy to set up, the very last option is just sending out, not sure why that logo is showing up there, but we'll have to take a look at that. I'll show you where that lives too. So the very last option that is here is just send an invoice without payment options. So if you go ahead and select this option, it's just going to send the invoice. And then you're going to have probably terms on there to know how to pay for that. If you select and this image, let me show you actually where that's pulling it from, because it'll be good to see that. So the actual logo part of it lives under, again, the settings where we just were for the products, payments, and invoices. We're going to go to the business profile, which if I did that too fast, that's the 3rd option down. That's the where the logo lives. And then here is where you can remove your logo and then update the logo. Let's see if I have a copy. Oh, that's a PDF. Oh, took that. And then of course we can update the other information as well. So going back over into the campaign builder, let's do a little refresh. Here we go.
There we go.
So that's where it's pulling the logo from, and obviously you can do some customization. The other thing to note is that these fields are completely editable. So they are pulling in merge field data, high contact first name, your invoice total is ready to be viewed, but you can obviously change that, because this area you can just add information before or after. The only things you can't change is you can't change the button, and you can't change the logo. You can remove the logo, but you can essentially just interact with it where the dotted lines are. So I can say, if I want to be more formal, I can say hello, contact first name. If I want to add more details down below, I can add that, but this is a completely editable area. Also, the thing to note is that let's say you had different sequences. So you had one option where it just sent, let's say, essentially what I'm trying to get at here is that if you wanted to have language in one sequence that said one particular message, in the second sequence, you can change it. So those are very unique to each sequence setup and each process. So it's not universal, and you can have unique languaging if your situation called for that. So back inside here, there's really the 4 options. Let's just go over them really quickly and then kind of talk through like why you would use each one of them. But the very first option is the auto charge this order. So again, this is going to look to see if there's a credit card on file. If there is, it is going, so what we're telling Keap and Infusionsoft when we pick this options, we're saying, see if there's a card on file. If so, charge the card. But because it's a smart system, it's also going to say, well, what if there isn't a card on file. So if there isn't a card on file, then there is a contingency. And these two are the differences between option 1 and option 2. Option 1 says, if there's a card on file, I'll charge it. And if not, I will just create a balance on the contact record. It's not going to send the contact an invoice or any kind of follow-up communication. It's just going to put the balance on their record. And then you can, for example, inside of Infusionsoft, run a report, or inside of Keap, go to your money dashboard, and you can see like which ones are have balances owing, and you can take a look that way and run some reporting. Option number 2 is if you want to charge the card, but there isn't a card on file, then it will send them a payable invoice. So I think the difference between the two of them, and Grady, I'd love your thoughts too, but I think the first one is like more of an internal process. Like we're going to charge the card and then we will follow up with them, you know, with a phone call, like our customer service team will follow up. The other option is like there's no card on file and we're kind of throwing the ball in the court of the customer. Like we're asking them to pay the invoice. Do you see any other difference between those two?
No, that sounds accurate to me too.
Okay. Then the third option is, you know, we're not even looking to auto charge cards. And this option you would kind of look at if you know that you don't have credit cards on file at all. Like if that's not your business model, so you haven't collected them, you can go through the process of just starting to send invoices and getting payments received through Infusionsoft and Keap, but not worrying about like that if there's no card on file or not. The other option that you could do is like if your goal is to move towards auto charging, you could select this option, and what it would do is for the first time it would send the payable invoice, and then going forward it would auto charge because you have this option selected. So there's a couple of different strategic things you can do there, but again, it depends a little bit about your business model and also how this how you're going to use this automation, which can be very powerful for your business. Then lastly, you can send an invoice. So you can just use this as essentially like this is like an employee now, right? Like whoever your employee is who takes care of all your invoicing and sends out all those details, that person is not necessarily collecting money. That's just more of the accounting person. So what you can do with this feature is you can turn Infusionsoft and Keap into like your your accounting person to send out the invoices. So you have all your accounts receivable in order, and then you can pull reporting and see like what is owing for us. And there would be, of course, like still a manual collection process of the money. So these options are all available to you here. The other thing to mention is you can absolutely customize like who it's coming from in the subject line too. So again, any of these fields are very customizable. And really from there, once you've picked the option that you want, you're just going to make sure, like any other element, you're going to just make sure that it's turned from draft to ready. Oh, I've removed the product or subscription. Doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And so just to show you, because I added that product, now I'm looking for it and it shows up here. So it's giving me the option to create a new product if I didn't see the one I was looking for, but because I see the one I'm looking for, I'm just simply going to select it and then make sure to press add, because it's not technically on there until you press that add button. So from there, we're just going to turn this whole thing from draft to ready. And you can see that this element is now turned to the ready. And then we're just going to essentially turn this from draft to ready. And then we would publish this. So from here, the way that the contact, what doesn't it like? So from here, once you have the contact coming into this campaign from any of the entry point goals that you're selecting, you're going to be able to then have that order created. The other really powerful thing that you can do, like I mentioned, is like with the one-click upselling. I think that feature is super powerful, because assuming that you are collecting payments using Infusionsoft or Keap, then what you can do is you can give someone the opportunity to, again, just simply click that button and then give you more money. So you're increasing their customer lifetime value, which is super necessary. And you're also increasing like the average order value too, because they're buying more from you as well, and probably adding more to that too. So that's essentially the functions available to you right now. Trying to think through other use cases. I can definitely model out and map out some other examples, but that's kind of the high level overview of this feature. I think some of the key benefits is that it's going to allow you to charge the same price over and over again, which is really powerful. And it's also an agreement that you're sending to the customer that they're agreeing to pay you. So there's a formal transaction happening in the business process. Just to share with you how you can create a little bit of maybe more sophistication with this. And the smart forms is the process that you would use inside of Keap, and it would be the internal forms that you would use inside of Infusionsoft. But this process is very straightforward. You've got, a sales pipeline move followed by order created. And another thing that you can do is if you want to turn this into a little bit of an abandoned cart sequence, you can follow that up with a product purchase goal right here. And what you can do between this and this is you can have your sales pipeline or your tag, whichever way they're going to come into this campaign, trigger the campaign to start, which is then going to create the order. And if they don't pay, let's say a day later or an hour later, you decide the duration. But what you can actually do in here is you can create some reminders. So let's say I have this go out, 4 hours later, at any time, let's say, on any day. And then what I could do is I could send a reminder for invoice payment. Now, the one thing about this that I'll mention is that you're specifically just reminding them. It's just essentially a little nudge. If you wanted to have a link to the actual invoice that you sent them, then you would have to have that invoice URL stored in a custom field and then put that into the email. But what this is really helpful to do is just as a little nudge. You're just sending a message to say, hey, I just want to follow up with you on the invoice I sent you a few hours ago. Make sure you, make sure you received it. Let me know if you have any questions, kind of a thing. That would be the context of this message. And then you could keep those reminders. You could have 2 or 3 of them in there. And then once they purchase the actual thing, once the order comes through, then you would be able, then it'll pull them out of the sequence. So in the case that it's going to auto charge, they would essentially come in here, the invoice would get created, and then they would skip over all of the automated reminders because all that process would happen in like a millisecond essentially. And then for the smart form, so just taking a look at how we can add a little bit of more sophistication to this is we can take that same order created, and then you can, again, using your smart form, you could have multiple, just for the purpose of this example, I'll just have 2, but you could have as many as you wanted. And you can essentially use the decision diamond to put them into the right one. Grady's example was actually an amazing one where you said, based on the number of units that they're purchasing, if it's a coaching package as an example, and they're purchasing a single session versus 4 hours, you can invoice them accordingly, which is really great. And all you're going to do is just essentially set up that smart form in advance so that you're able to have the options that you need and then tie it into the campaign builder for the automation piece.
Yeah, that kind of goes into Cameron's question. He said he might have missed this, but can you pipe in a specific price from the smart form, maybe something from a formula? So this is kind of how we can do that.
Yeah, this is kind of how we can do that is right. What you can't do, Cameron, is you can't have, you can do that if you've got the different variations for it pre-set up. So if you know that you might sell it for $100 or $150 or $200, what you can't do is on the fly using a smart form. You can't put $123 and then have that create the order with that number. You would have to have your different options already pre-thought through, and then you can use the smart form to put them into the right sequence, which would then charge the right amount with the right quantity as well. Like let's say you left the quantity at 1 for everything, but you just wanted to play with the price, then you could have that be your smart form field. And rather than having it as a text field, I probably would create it as a checkbox or a drop-down option, and then just have the smart form submit to put them in the right place.
And And then one of the
See, and
questions, yeah,
yeah,
from Irving was, are the same options available in Infusionsoft as Keap?
yes, inside the campaign builder, everything I'm showing you is universal essentially. So just for peace of mind, let me go into Infusionsoft, which I have open here as well. But if I go over to the campaign builder, and now I'm in my second software, you're going to see that the process, I just, sometimes I need to see it. And so,
This kind of goes hand in hand with Anne's question of really kind of getting one more view of how
yeah,
we would kick off something like this.
yeah, beautiful. So let's go through that. I've got my totally blank canvas here, and let's show how we would set this up. So the key piece is that we need to decide how are we bringing the contact into the campaign. It is beautiful that we know that we can have the contact automatically have their invoices created for us. So that's already one piece it's taken care of, but we need to decide how are they coming into the campaign. In Infusionsoft, you actually have a couple of more options available to you in terms of your goals as well. So kind of just deciding how are we going to get them in there. Just for the purposes of keeping the example the exact same, I'm going to take my smart form example and convert that into an internal form, because that is how you would do that process inside of Infusionsoft. So you can take your internal form, right? And so on the internal form, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just create a radio button, okay? And you can decide whichever process you want to use, but I'm just going to create a radio button, and I'm going to call this, in Grady's example about the coaching, I'm going to call this coaching session price. So let's say I wanted to charge them one session, but I wanted to be able to be flexible with the price for some people who maybe are going to get like a little bit of a friends and family discount. I want to charge them a little bit lower. If it's a new customer that I've never worked with before, I want to charge them my full price. So let's say for my friends and family price, it was going to be $150 a session as an example. And let's say for my regular price, it was going to be $250 a session. Okay. So what we would want to do is we would want to make this form field required, because we want to make sure we're getting an input value. And so all we're doing at this point is we're just saying, is it 150 or is it 250? If there's any other details you want to be able to add in, like I could easily add, if I wanted, again, this is where we're adding more permutations and combinations. I can add, session quantity. And then what this would mean is inside my decision diamonds, I would just need to have and rules. Like I would say, if it's 150 and one session, put them in the sequence. If it's 250 and one session, put them in the sequence. So I'm going to have that rule logic in there as well. But for the purpose of this example, let's just keep it simple and let's just make it about price. So we're going to set that up. Inside of Keap, if you're going to set up a smart form, let me just show you where to go to do that. So we're kind of following along step by step for both. So if you're going to do a smart form inside of Keap, you're just going to go back to your avatar at the top, and then you're going to go to the settings section. And then under settings near the bottom, you're going to see smart forms available to you here. So this is where you build the form, and then you can set up the form inside of the campaign. So we just create a form. We're going to just call this coaching package invoicing. We'll add the fields. I generally speaking remove any fields that I don't need. If I don't need to update the field, then I just take them away. If I do want the ability to maybe send it to a different email address, then you might want to keep email on there. But other than that, I'm just generally removing fields that I don't deem that I need. And then from there, we're going to add a field, we'll add a radio field. So this is going to be the coaching package or coaching session pricing. And then this is going to be the 150 or 250. So you can see I've set up similar things on both ends, where I've got on Infusionsoft, I've got it set up as an internal form, and then inside of Keap, I've got it set up as a smart form. Grady, I don't know if you ever find this, but sometimes I do find that I need to back out and then save it again.
Yeah, especially when you're running two instances. Keap and Infusionsoft hate when you have two instances running.
Hate each other. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is where your smart form would live inside of Keap, and then inside of the campaign, when you go to set up the campaign, you're simply picking the smart form that you've created inside of that drop down menu. So that option now exists when you go to the smart form submitted, or we have one down here. Then the option that you created lives in this drop down right here. So back into Infusionsoft, and let's let them play nicely. I'll close one of the instances out. So back into Infusionsoft, we have our internal form submitted. So we're just going to relabel this so we know how to find it. So this is going to be coaching our session invoice. And then from there, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have two different sequences, one for the 150 and one for the 250. And so what you're doing inside the decision diamond, and again, this is a little bit of advanced stuff. If you don't need to have these different permutations and combinations, then don't do that. Just have it send out the invoice every single time with the same pricing. So all we're doing here is we're just looking for the form submission because it's coming from our form, internal form. So we're saying if the form submission option, and I'm just clicking, oh, let me show you a smarter way of doing this. This is by habit, but the import rules is life-changing.
Gotta be a better way.
Yes, let me show you the life-changing way. Don't copy my 8-year-old habits.
Yeah, this is actually the session that I did last month on the product update. I talked about decision diamonds in the update.
Yes. So, okay, so in the first rule, we've set it up. So one of them we do need to set up. So we're setting up the first one where we're saying form submission option, coaching session pricing is selected. And just so you know, there is a option up here in the actions called test. Grady probably went over this, and it's just basically you can make sure that your rules are set up correctly. So from there, what we can actually do is we can click on the 3 little dots and click import rules from, and we can pick the 150 pricing. And so what it did is it just kind of like gave me a baseline, and then I can go ahead and just update the any discrepancies, but it's going to save me a couple of steps of having to go ahead and create all the very same things over and over again.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can go to actions test and then see if I pick 150, do they go to the right place? Yes, they do. And then if I pick 250, do they go to the right place? That's essentially what we're trying to just make sure we've done correctly in our decision diamond. From there, you're simply just going to pull out that same create order, and you're going to pick coaching session. So we're just going to create that product, save that. And so we have the 150 pricing option now selected. And then I might want to send a payable invoice. If in that business, it would be more than likely, like maybe I don't have a credit card on file. And then from there, I can come over and I can simply clone those rules. So if you've already set up your sequence, and the thing is, I don't want to have to redo this decision diamond. So what I can do instead of pulling everything out, I can click on actions, copy from campaign. I can find the campaign, maybe.
This is why naming conventions are so important, right?
Yeah. Yes, this is a perfect example. Here we go, automation hour. So I knew I titled it that, so I was looking in my A's. So, and then what I did was I just simply cloned it, and then it didn't actually pull in the pricing, but I do see I got a little error message. So that probably is just on my end. And then I can go ahead and create the same 250 coaching session. This is actually how I titled it.
And one thing I was getting some clarity on too is that even in Keap, if you have had a transaction in the past that used a credit card, it'll still use that card on file. It counts that, or your most recent credit
Yeah.
card you use for a transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of power in this tool, and that's basically the setup. This is the more kind of like fancier way of setting it up, but you could absolutely just set it up with a tag and a sequence, and that's it. Again, the idea is like, how can we create more efficiency for our business so that we're not manually having to create these things and just spend our time. We want the bots to do the things that we don't need to do, and then we want to be able to focus our time on the things that we need to do, and nothing really can replace us on those things just yet. But Grady, let me know if there's anything else. I know we still have a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure if we have any other questions, we get those answered. And if there's anything else specifically on this new feature that we want to talk about, then we cover those as well.
Yeah, I think so far so good. But yeah, everyone who's joining us today, if you got more questions, we do have some time left. Feel free to raise that hand or throw it in Q&A. And some things I've typed back to with quick answers. But just so you guys know, we are recording today, and it will be available on our registration page where you can watch past sessions. And I'll also send you guys the link to the Decision Diamond training that I did last month that was asked for, and I'll send out the April product update video and an article that gives you those details.
Yeah, it's good. It kind of gives you like an entire overview. I mean, Keap has been hard at work to update a whole bunch of stuff, so you'll probably be surprised to know how many things came out in that report.
Yeah, I went through it this morning. I'm like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And Anne asked, how do you trigger the internal form? Like, what is the process of finding that and filling
Yeah,
it out?
beautiful question. So let's go ahead and publish this, and then I'll go over to a contact record to show you how you can access it. And I am biased. I mean, you can access the internal form. So if you're familiar with contact records, you can get to the contact record in one of two different ways. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a Renee. A little pro tip, if you have, I don't know if this is the case for all emails, but I have a Gmail, which is what powers my email. So if I do like a plus in any number, like a plus, 10, what it'll do is it'll create all these accounts for me without creating a brand new test account. So it'll still come to my email. I don't really know what that's called, but it's just a feature I've been using forever and ever, so that I also see that like, oh, I submitted in this, email, and I can go and unsubscribe that particular account rather than just putting it on my main email every single time. So
I know I've been debating where I want to host my email permanently. I'm just using Bluehost right now, and that's one of those features.
Gmail.
I know.
Get to the Gmail. So I know I'm really biased. It has to be easy to use. Okay, so there's two ways you can access the internal form. This is on the full-blown contact record. You are going to be able to get everything under the sun on this contact record. And where the internal forms live is right near the bottom. You want to make sure you're on the tasks tab, so that it lives on the tasks tab just below. Basically, to navigate yourself, find the save search buttons, go below that, and then make sure you're on the task tab, and internal forms are right down here. So you would pick the internal form from the options. You would find the one that you're looking for. And again, this is where good naming conventions really matter, because you'll be spending an eternity looking for it. And you just click out, fill out the form, and you can see the form pops up right here. And this is where the beauty of the automation is. Now, if this is going to do automation, a huge thing that I would highly recommend is put on the internal form. I didn't do it, but I would if this was a real thing. I would put a disclaimer, like just in the campaign builder, I would throw a text box on there, and I would say, when you fill this form out, it will automatically send the invoice, just so people know I push this button, something is going to happen. It's very important to tell people what to expect.
Especially if you have people helping you, like if you got staff on, that would do this too.
Exactly.
You don't want to charge anyone an accident.
Exactly. So, and exactly. They should know that this is not just like a form. This does something. This form has action behind it. So if we click on the 150 and I press submit, this action of then adding that is going to do two things. So I can actually see on 514 who filled out the form. So it tells me I filled out the form right here. It tells me which form. And if I actually click on the form, I can see the options that were picked. So let's say something went wrong. This also gives you a little bit of a historical background to go in and see, okay, well, they picked the true value is 150. Maybe it should have been the 250 value as an example. So you can also do a little troubleshooting this way. And this is it. This is what triggers the campaign to start. So if I go back into the campaign builder, then what you'll see is that this contact is now entering into the campaign, and it's because of the internal form. And they would go, so you can see right here, in the last 24 hours, I went here, it went into the decision time and it said, okay, 150 was picked, and it went over to the 150 and it created the order, which we'll just go check in a second. So the other way I like to do it, and this would kind of be the wrap up, is just over here, if you find your contact, so we go to Renee Automation Hours. I personally like to use the interactive view. This is my favorite. And whenever I can use this view, I just will go ahead and do that. You can customize this view by clicking on Edit Fields to pull in the most important fields that you want to have access. And you can obviously just hover over these and click on any of them. But if you click on Internal Forms, which is the fourth option from the right-hand side, you can also see those same exact forms that I was just accessing and the coaching service sessions. I can fill it out, and I could fill out the form again. Now, just keep in mind, if I fill out this form multiple times, it's going to run me through that automation multiple times. So it's going to create multiple invoices for me, essentially. If I go under my orders, you can see a campaign order was generated, today's date. And because the option I picked was a payable invoice, it's just simply saying that there's a balance due. So I can also run reporting by going under e-commerce and then going to the reports. And Grady, you can tell me if this exact report is also inside of Keap. But essentially inside of Infusionsoft, there is a receivables report. So you can pull that report, and you can also see like who are people who have balances owing, and then you can strategically start to go after them and have a systemized way to do that in your business too.
Well, perfect. Well, we got about a minute left. Renee, I'll let you have the final word. What do you want people to walk away with today and take action on?
If you're able to implement this amazing tool inside of your business to start automating invoicing, please do. Please make life a little bit easier for yourself. And if you need any help in order to get the process up and running, I highly encourage you to join my free Facebook group. It's called Automate Your Conversions. Grady will send out the link as a follow-up, but I invite you to join me there. And if you need any help to do any implementation, I can help you with that as well. So just feel free to continue to connect with me. I also put on here, only because I thought it tied in with the scheduling aspect, I had previously in one of the very first automation hours, I had created a scheduling campaign that you can get by going to automateyourschedule.com. If you need help with creating a system to automate your scheduling, go ahead, get this campaign. It's completely free, and I hope it's really valuable for you as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys taking time out to learn more about how to leverage Keap and Infusionsoft to take your business to the next level. And this is a feature that I'm a big fan of. Reminder, we'll be off on Fridays and Mondays, but we're picking back up again on Tuesday. And so come check out the schedule and register for those sessions that you feel are the best fits for you. And we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.